Okay, Nick and Andy, we're in the final few hours of the transfer deadline for this summer. So many big deals have been done, are still developing, are going to be done before the deadline. And it's pretty chaotic out there, I think. So we're going to talk a lot about deadline day, but also rank the best deals and what's been done so far. But in terms of the biggest deals developing, Nick, and going on, any that you've got your eye on? Because we have some monster names being linked with moves late in the window, and it seems like a lot of teams have kind of left it later than usual to move on some of these big players that are maybe surplus to requirements and kind of stuck in a little corner. And there's going to be some big deals and good bargains to be done late in the window.
Yeah, I've been wondering recently whether or not the other big names, those people, do they pay attention at all to what people are talking about? Because I see some of the prices and I go, wait, did you know that this guy went for that or this guy went for that and all that? And I am looking very closely at what happens with Raheem Sterling because, as you guys know, I pay pretty close attention to Newcastle. And when he first was going to be on the move, I was like, oh, they're one of the clubs I think that could get him. And I started to look into him a little bit more when I realized it wasn't going to happen. And I think he's a lot better than we give him credit for because he's always under the microscope because of his price tag and all that. And I think for most teams in the Premier League, whether it be Manchester United or someone else, I really think he could swing their attack one way.
Yeah, he's only 29 years old as well, Andy. So, which is pretty crazy because he's been around forever. And even at Chelsea last season, the finishing touch was missing a lot, but he created a lot of opportunities in that kind of high pressing, counter attacking system. Obviously, Chelsea style doesn't suit him at all. That's why he's going elsewhere. But at Man United, in theory, it kind of should work, right?
Yeah, there's a certain level where obviously he's still good enough to be a key contributor in the Premier League. The issue for him and clubs and Chelsea and everybody involved in this actually is the money that he is owed on his contract and finding another club that's either going to come close to that or match that or him being willing to take a pretty significant pay cut. And I think this is the thing that we've hinted at this for the last year or two when Chelsea began just buying player after player after player on these six. And not that Sterling is on one of the super duper long contracts of the young players, but this is going to be a repeated problem for Chelsea where they have all this money tied up in a player that the new manager, 4 managers down the line, doesn't really rate and have a plan for him in his team, and they want to get rid of him. And how do you do that? So this is just the first of many, 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 many of these kind of sagas and dramas to come for Chelsea.
Yeah, and Nick, obviously all the talk is about Sterling. Is it going to be a straight swap deal with Manchester United for Jadon Sancho to head to Chelsea? Because again, that's a similar situation. He's not really in the plans there at Man United. Fell out of Ten Hag, made up with him, had a decent pre-season. You thought, he could be back in the fold here after his good loan spell at Dortmund. But United obviously want to get rid again. And I guess in theory, this probably works out best for everybody if they can wangle this and make this work. But I don't know, Sancho to Chelsea, is that really what they need? Another really talented winger, but they have so many already. And I don't know for his career, this is the best move again. And maybe just out of desperation for all parties.
Yeah, I mean, it's not having an alternative. And I think he's a fantastic player. You guys know that. I've sung his praises quite a bit. I don't think he's being used correctly. There's no way that given what we've seen from him in the past and the fact that he is at least mildly a professional, that he's going to, absolutely fall off a cliff at this young age. But again, who's going to afford him is these are the things that get in your way. And I look at Chelsea and I think, the Neto signing looks phenomenal. I don't think their wingers were really bad to start with, and that includes Sterling. Coaches clearly see something in Mudryk as well that we haven't necessarily seen. Madueke just had a hat trick. The attacking talent there is fantastic, which is why people are talking about a center forward there. And frankly, I just don't know where you live where we live right now in the false nine world. Unless, even Pep Guardiola has a big old target man. So it's just a strange one because if you're Chelsea, you're also inviting the next 3 to 6 months to be, well, why isn't Sancho playing? Why isn't Sancho playing? Why isn't Sancho playing? And it's a strange one.
Yeah, you talked about the target man there. And obviously Chelsea, again, we're talking about Chelsea again. Ivan Toney's been linked with a move there, Andy. And you've watched him a lot for Brentford over the years, done incredible things for that club. But now is the time for him to move on in the final year of his contract. There's talks about a huge contract offer from Saudi Arabia, but it seems like Chelsea have made their move for him. Got Victor Osimhen as well from Napoli, kind of in the background. Again, it seems like Chelsea are just trying to buy everyone, and they'll figure it out somewhere down the line. But that probably is the need that they have the most, a traditional number 9 target man, if you will. And then Nicholas Jackson, Christopher Nkunku are still around as well. And I guess Tony.
What did we just say about the wingers? They have to move one on because they have too many. They all. Yes. We were talking about multiple forwards they might be trying to bring in now, and then we talk about, well, here are the forwards they currently have that are then going to be moved out of position that they were then going to. It's just when people continuously ask, like, what is Chelsea doing? What is the plan there? It's for a reason. Nobody understands what's happening there, and at some point they can't just move these players on. And I think we're. Not to belabor the point from earlier again, but I think we're getting pretty close to that point where it's not just sign and they'll retain value and we'll move them on. That doesn't work in the football world the way that maybe it does in other realms of business out there these days. Like these assets, if you will, the players depreciate based on a bad business deal, a bad contract that you tie yourself to. And Chelsea are in that position. Do they need Ivan Toney? Do they need Victor Osimhen? Maybe. Probably they need a big physical forward. I would agree because Nicholas Jackson is obviously not that, but he does seem to fit pretty well to the way that Maresca seems to want to play. So I probably not, I guess would be my answer in the end.
I think Ivan Toney would improve any of the top 6 Premier League teams if they wanted him. Just the way he's something very, very different. We've seen how destructive, impactful he's been at Brentford, and I think taking that to the top level with great players around him, I think he'd score 20, 25 goals easy in a team like Chelsea's and the way they play. But let's see if that one gets over the line. All right, that's focusing on stuff that could happen deadline day, last 24 hours of the window. Nick, what's your favorite transfer that's happened? Let's rank the best deals so far this summer. Is there one transfer that you're like, yep, that's my favorite, that's the one that made the most sense so far?
Well, the best deal is pretty easy. It's Gundogan for free to Man City. I mean, that one seems pretty easy. And I honestly think the best deal could still be to come with some of the things we've seen Manchester United linked with, some things that are impending. But I'm going to go a little bit off the board here, just a little bit, and say that on the whole, what Spurs have done is really, really interesting. And I know, Andy, I know. You know, it's hard for me to compliment you. Solanke being injured takes a little bit of the shine off this, but that is the sort of guy they needed. And I realized this the other day when I was putting together my fantasy Premier League lineup, and I was looking at like, oh, I guess do I have to look at Richarlison? Like, they needed it. They needed that sort of guy, and I think it's the right move for them. And given all the wingers they're being linked, that they've signed, and the attacking midfielders they've been linked with, man, they're all in on their manager, and that means a lot. So I think Spurs' whole window capped by Solanke.
Yeah, no, I love the Solanke show. I think he's perfect for the way that they want to play and that finishing touch that they needed to their forward options. Andy, what do you reckon, mate?
Not so much one transfer, but again, collectively, the business that Aston Villa have done. I thought Amadou Onana obviously was fantastic last season for Everton, and then immediately straight into the team, gets a goal on opening day. You can just see the influence he's going to have on that team. And it was a big worry in the summer. They get into Champions League and they sell Douglas Luiz off to Juventus, and everybody that's really been paying attention, I think, for the last couple of years to Villa and the rise that they've had were, what are they doing? Why would you get rid of this guy? You know, that's kind of what the team is built around. And they brought someone in who younger, a little bit more mobile, a little bit more dangerous in the attack on set pieces, and they've probably improved on the whole. I also like the Ian Maatsen signing. He really proved himself on loan last season with Dortmund when he couldn't get into the Chelsea team. And so they have a lot of really interesting pieces for a manager who uses pieces in interesting ways. Unai Emery is very thoughtful in the way that he sets his team up. So I think they are set up for not just success, you know, this season, next season, but really building something long term.
Nick? Joe, did you have on your bingo card, did you have Brighton buying 6 players at $30 million or more? And did you have are you starting to wonder why people even sell to Brighton? And is that why the prices are going up? Because they don't
why
miss.
everybody doesn't hear a player linked to Brighton and then just say, all right, we're going to pay $5 million more and sign them.
Yeah,
Well,
they don't miss, and they see a bargain. And I know that Yankuba Minte isn't necessarily a bargain coming from Newcastle, but they knew Newcastle was in trouble, and they're like, well, this guy's on our radar. The biggest name in Turkey they signed, and I'm gonna mess it up, but Kadioglu, Ruder from Leeds, Weaver looked, or it might be Viffer, excuse me, looked great from Feyenoord. Like everyone they're signing looks good every year. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think Brighton and even Brentford we're seeing are now like established enough in the Premier League where they can take on those bigger teams to sign those kind of players and can offer the kind of money and wages where they are going to just ramp things up. And yeah, Savvy from Brighton, great summer from them in terms of using that McAllister and Caicedo money to essentially buy half a new team, which is pretty incredible. A couple of names I want to mention. Obviously, we mentioned Solanke, but I think in terms of like bargains, Chiesa signing for Liverpool for what's it, just under $15 million, something around that, is if he can stay fit, is a tremendous buy. And I also think Pedro Neto will come really good at Chelsea again if he can stay fit, but he has all the attributes there. And I want to give a shout out to Aaron Ramsdale of Southampton, not confirmed yet, but pretty much done. For my hometown club, I think that's a huge, huge sign-in, and I think that is going to be key for them this season as they try and stay in the Premier League. So there's a few others that I want to mention, and there's dominoes falling all the time. So while we're taping right now, Romelu Lukaku has signed for Napoli. That means the dominoes are falling. Chelsea have got rid of one striker. Napoli have a forward, Osherman. Where's he going? So this is going to go on and on for the next day or so, lads, and then we can take a breather, relax, and then analyze it a lot more. But head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest transfer news on deadline day from around the Premier League. We'll have it covered with all the ins and outs, latest transfer news, updates, analysis. We'll be giving some grades on all the business that the 20 Premier League teams have done so far this summer. But it's a hectic deadline day coming up. Lots of good deals have already happened in the Premier League. And gents, I think we're going to have a lot more good deals coming up in the final hours of the window.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.